Welcome to Musings and Magic. I'm Lauren Fortuna Flock. I'm a mother, doula, the host of the Well-Nourished Mother podcast, and a somatic matrescence guide. I support mothers through the waves of intensity motherhood brings, so they can fall in love with the mother they are and the mother they're becoming.
And I'm Nicole Pasveer, a mom, wife, and host of the Rewild and Free podcast. I help women awaken beyond the conditioning that's been keeping them pretty, perfect, and pleasing so that they can live more consciously, mother intuitively, and grow their business holistically.
We've never met in real life, and we live 700 miles apart.
But we've been holding space for each other virtually since 2022 when we found each other in super similar seasons of life.
Yeah, we were both in our retiring from a super secure nursing job, in the thick of postpartum, and starting a heart-led business era. We found ourselves chatting for hours on Zoom almost weekly, having the deep, why isn't anyone talking about this conversations around all things motherhood and conscious entrepreneurship.
So we started recording these unfiltered and unscripted conversations to bring you this co-created series. We're inviting you in with deep trust that you'll receive whatever insight, wisdom, or solidarity you need in this season, because we all know motherhood and entrepreneurship are lonely as fuck.
Yeah, we're blending our musings with a touch of magic, the kind of woo-woo, more spiritual, witchy stuff that we're both so curious about, but don't fully relate to.
Yet.
Our intention is to invite more ritual into our lives, so we're using this series to anchor into the cycle of the moon, meeting on the full and new moons of each month. We'll do an energy check-in and explore nuanced conversations around big topics related to cyclical orientation, feminine embodiment in business and motherhood, and our own personal explorations related to reclaiming our inner witch.
So if you're ready to come laugh, learn, and reflect with us, then keep listening. But first, we invite you to take the deepest breath you've given to yourself yet today. And when you're ready, let's go. It feels like it's been a hot minute since we've recorded together, and we only skipped February, so it really hasn't been that long, but we were just talking about how we do want to recommit to Musings and Magic again, which I think is what we said in January.
I think we say it every time.
We do say it every time, but I think we're just really making it more clear for ourselves that, like, we get to define what consistency looks like. And as much as we keep coming back to this intention that, oh, we want it to be like anchored around the moon and we want to create a bit of ritual around it and blah, 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 blah. I love it. Those are amazing intentions. And also we are navigating like life, and life keeps lifing. And like last month you were traveling and you're working more and getting more postpartum client. Like, it's just all of these moving parts, and not even just you, it's me too. There's all these moving parts that I guess, unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, just it is, that move Musings and Magic down the list.
Yeah. And I think it just shows that we don't trying to fit into somebody else's strategy or idea of what consistency looks like just doesn't work for mothers. It just really doesn't.
I read an email the other day. Oh my God, I don't remember. I should pull it up because I would feel bad not crediting who it was, but talking about consistency being a privilege. Right? One, it's like kind of this man-made construct, but two, it's also like a privilege. So
yeah,
sitting with like, where am I being met with real valid things in my life? Motherhood, sickness, travel, being a woman with a menstrual cycle, fluctuating energy, the list goes on. Those things shift what's the word I'm looking for? Just shift the availability, the accessibility of consistency.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in the past we've talked about, instead of consistency, it's devotion. Like, how am I devoting myself to this in a way that is unique to my current season, my current capacity? And yeah, it's not going to look the same as it does for somebody else.
Yeah. I think we actually talk about that in almost every episode.
Yeah, probably.
Because it is such a real thing that we are both navigating and unlearning and embodying, like, in real time. Anyways, this email was from Sharon Escadani. She is the founder of Wholehearted Coaching, and she's really reimagining what life coaching looks like through a decolonized lens. So I really appreciate her voice and her work. But yeah, this email was just really illuminating in the sense of looking at consistency being rooted in colonialized privilege. And let me just scroll through if there's anything else that really popped up. Yeah, just like the ability to be consistent is a privilege. When we tell people they need to just be more consistent or throw around the idea that we all have the same 24 hours, we erase the realities of caregiving, chronic illness, financial insecurity, and the many other factors that impact someone's ability to show up in the same way. And it's funny because like we even just this morning we were reflecting on the discrepancy between our lives right now. I have Aubrey in daycare, so I do have this newer sense of time freedom. And you're like, that's not me right now, but in September it will be, right? So anyways, it's evolving. It's always evolving.
Always. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that quote about, we all have the same 24 hours. I feel like I shared something about that recently too. I can't remember what, of course, but it was more so around like saying that to mothers, and just saying that you're not disciplined enough. We all have the same 24 hours. It's just so, yeah, like you're saying, it comes from such a place of privilege. It's not taking into consideration the childcare needs, the being needed 24/7 by somebody else, having to work on top of it, like all of these things. It's just a very narrow view of, yeah, what life can look like. And again, this isn't playing the victim, nothing like that, but what's going on over there?
Yeah, I'm distracted. The dogs are going crazy because our neighbors send their dog on a doggy school bus once a week. So the doggy school bus is now in front of our house, dropping the neighbor dog back off to his house. So he just spent 2 hours at a private off-leash dog park that the doggy school bus brings him to. It's hilarious. It's also like the cutest thing. And Aubrey loves watching it. But yeah, of course, Crosby and Piper are jealous because they don't get to go on the doggy school bus.
That's amazing.
Talk about creative business models. Jeez.
Yeah, amazing.
I can't remember what their company's called, but they have a really engaging Instagram account that their stories are just the best. They'll take the doggy school bus, they'll drive through the Starbucks drive-through and order a bunch of puppuccinos, so literally just cups of whipped cream, and then of course show video footage of feeding the dogs, and they name all. It's really adorable. Anyways, that's a tangent that has no business here. There was another post that you sent me on Instagram today that could be fun to talk about. One line specifically really struck out to me around.
Yeah, it was a post by someone named, or her Instagram account is Lois Mac _. I don't follow her. I just randomly came across this post. I think it was this morning or late last night. And like the first page, it says, if you're not willing to be misunderstood, you're not ready to lead. And it felt a little bit like okay.
Yeah. Well, because you and I have been just untangling some of this stuff in our own life and work right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I had it was funny. I had a perfect example of this happen to me right before I saw this post. So last night on my personal account, I took the plunge and shared a story that was a bit more political, or I shared a reel that was a bit more political, but it was like a light and funny reel. And I thought it was hilarious. And it was critiquing like our democratic process in Canada as a whole. And in no way was I leaning any which way. Like my intention for sharing it was like, I got a laugh from this. I'm going to share this because it all feels like a shit show right now.
Yeah.
And I had someone in my DMs just kind of like make a million assumptions about me, go off on a big tangent and share, like, obviously this struck a chord with her and she must have already been dealing with something around all of this to like, out of nowhere, this person I hardly know just come at me with all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I am not participating in this. Goodbye. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I just ended it there. But I did have this need afterwards to be like, the more I thought about it, I was like, no, like she totally misunderstood the whole thing. And I felt like I wanted to go back in there and over explain myself. And then I was like, you know what? No, I just don't care. Like That's not my problem. Someone misunderstood me. And, that happens a lot on social media because there's no room for nuance. So it was just funny to then come across this post and be like, okay, I got to get comfortable being misunderstood because you can't over explain every little thing you say and do. Someone is always going to find some kind of fault in it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, this feels very alive and true for some of the stuff I talk about online too. And not even just kind of like expressing your values and knowing that there's obviously room for debate, I guess, for lack of a better word, right? When you say
Hmm.
something that you know is polarizing, like I'm not necessarily sharing it to try to stir the pot. I'm just sharing it as an expression of my values. And I'm a firm believer that like it's important as conscious like coaches and doulas to be transparent about those things because I think it serves as a point of connection for our people that are hiring us. And also it builds, I guess, trust on both sides, right? I know that someone that is sharing their own truth, whether it's political stuff or not, it just takes away this feeling of like this person just a robot online that's regurgitating
Yeah.
their coach's proven formula, right? Or like in the birth world, I feel like there's so many childbirth education courses that you can buy and then just put on your like brand and logo on it. And so I actually want to know you. And so
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes sharing that stuff helps to know the real you. But what stands out for me in this post is I know my own tendency to want to have things figured out. And I've often seen that as a flavor of perfectionism showing up. But this post is helping to illuminate that it's also because, yeah, there's this really big and valid fear of being misunderstood. And like you named, so we go into like over explanation mode. And in the context of business and copy and strategy, we want to figure it out and have the perfect copy and the perfect like sales page and the perfect opt-in page and have all those little nuances touched on, just protecting and soothing ourselves from that tender place of potentially being misunderstood. And so the line that really stood out for me was trying to get it right all the time isn't strategy, it's performance. Woo-wee. Yeah, like it's just another sneaky way that we're performing. Could I almost say that trying to perfect your copy is just performing because you are ultimately self-abandoning your truth? You are censoring yourself in some way to try to get it right and not be offensive and not be labeled as too whatever or not enough or whatever it is that you are trying to avoid.
I just think it all just highlights like how divisive our culture is right now, though.
Yeah, oh, very
There's,
much so. Well,
yeah, in
the
all
fact that we're
ways.
walking around with this fear
Yes.
is highlighting
Shows.
kind of
Yeah.
that sensitivity of the
Yeah.
divisiveness. Yeah, for
One,
sure.
cancel culture, all of it. Like we've
Yeah,
lost the ability to make mistakes
yeah,
publicly, that's for sure. And our
yeah,
lives are public now on social media. So
yeah.
yeah, it makes people. I also saw a post the other day that something about I hate middle of the road people. So now you can't even be nuanced. You
Right.
can't even be middle of the road and
Well,
think
I mean,
I see both perspectives.
that's what
There's
that I think
just
there's we could have a whole conversation on the difference between nuance and neutrality. Because they
for
are
sure.
different. Like they're very different. Because I do believe that if depending on the topic we're talking about, choosing neutrality out of a place of just not wanting to rock the boat on either side is
Yeah,
also
that's not what
harmful,
I'm talking
right?
about.
But
Yeah.
nuance, seeing both sides because you're empathetic and because you are just like a well-rounded person that can see and hold space for other people's realities and lived experiences, that's different. But I think you can hold nuance and still have your own beliefs and opinions. So you can hold nuance and not be middle of the road.
Yeah. But again, it's just so much of you need to think this way
Yeah.
or you're not
Well,
right or
it's just more
wrong.
shoulds. It's just more rules
Yeah,
and
it's
shoulds and
just,
expectations and things that we could get wrong to
yeah.
feel not enough.
Yeah. That's what I think I have the biggest beef with in our culture right now is being
Yeah.
told how you need to feel or think, or else you're on the wrong side of whatever side we're talking about. You're
Right.
either in the wrong one or the right one. And if you think in any other way, you're
Yeah.
doing something wrong. So
Yeah.
are we performing or are we actually sharing our thoughts and opinions? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, and the
it's a
hierarchy
very
that creates, right? Because now you have right and
yeah.
wrong. And so if you're wrong, then you're lower on kind of the totem pole. And if you're right, then you're higher up. And that's just disgusting and not real. That is man-made.
Yeah. Weird times.
Circling back to just your experience last night, sharing the lighthearted comical post and then kind of being slightly ripped apart in a way.
Yeah.
And recognizing how quick you were to over-explain yourself. I don't know if you actually over-explained yourself.
I didn't, no.
You recognize that within you. And it's interesting because that's making me reflect back on a conversation I had last week. I was talking to someone about just continuing to unravel my own neurodivergence and this autism diagnosis that we've had in our family, and just, making sense of it all. And being confronted in this conversation with a comment of, basically saying, I don't see how you or Aubrey could be autistic. And obviously that's challenging my very real lived experience right now. And I was sharing with you just how quick I was to fawn and essentially continue to self-abandon myself in a really sneaky way, because I didn't want to, ultimately, I didn't want to go deeper in that conversation. So I wasn't even in a place to defend myself. I was just like, okay, I just shrunk and I deflated. Mm-hmm. And ultimately I wasn't feeling seen, but I also wasn't standing in my truth. It's sneaky. It's sneaky, sneaky, sneaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because you need to have a strong sense of self to be able to have a boundary like that. And if, with something that's so new and identity shifting for you, it makes sense that would throw you into, this is really unsafe right now. Someone is literally questioning whether my experience is real. So fawning to protect yourself is the perfect nervous system response to have.
System. You are so wise. Yeah. And also, right, it's just also illuminating to me where self-doubt is still creeping in, because like you just said, when it's something new and something that is still in the process of being kind of made sense of, that confidence and that conviction and that ability to kind of put my line in the sand on whatever I know and believe isn't really there yet. And that's a really tender, vulnerable, uncomfortable place to be. Oh, Lauren's sneezing. Bless you. Bless you.
Managed to hit the mute button right in time.
That's so funny.
One more. Okay.
Okay, bless you.
Still getting over a cold over here.
I feel like this can kind of be a nice segue into a couple of things that we're working on behind the scenes. So I'm working on, I have this week, depending on when we actually publish this, I'm hosting a free live activation all around exploring your identity. So it's totally on par with this. And it's also no wonder that I am meeting these edges in my own world, because this always happens as kind of a little soft or intense initiation when I'm launching things into the world. But it's a free 2-part activation to kind of unravel and explore who the fuck you are beyond the labels and beyond the boxes. And then I'm also gearing up to host, I'm calling it Unruly. It's going to be a roundtable and business lab kind of playground space to just continue this unraveling and step in to the identity of knowing that business can't be done as usual. We can't keep doing business as usual because we're not usual. So you've been naming, we have to stop trying to fit into these boxes, and specifically around consistency and how we are expressing ourselves and all of the things that probably don't feel like they're working for you in your business. We're going to untangle them and not even make sense of them, but just explore new ways to feel more like yourself in your business. So that's coming down the pipeline in my world. And then you and I have been busy beavers creating something specifically for doulas and mother-serving professionals. And a big part of that is exploring kind of what we've just talked about here too, around the divisiveness online and specifically in kind of the motherhood birth space online, right? There's so much polarizing stuff out there, and that hierarchy that's being created in motherhood, starting right from pregnancy into birth and then into postpartum and beyond, right? It doesn't stop.
Yeah. Have we shared the like name of what we're
I
creating
don't
yet? I don't
know.
even
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like a group program called Embodied Mother Care. Yeah, exploring the inner work of being a mother serving professional. So
Yeah.
it's not a certification program. We're
No.
not teaching you the skills of like how to serve women or mothers. That's not what it's all about. It's about your own internal work. It's about getting clear on, what does being trauma informed really mean? And what does it really mean for you? How do we be these embodied leaders
Yeah.
in the way that we serve mothers and women and anyone that we're serving?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a 6-month experience. We're kind of splitting it up into 2 parts. So the first part being all around this idea of like inner mastery. If you have a better word for us, let us know because we both
Yeah.
hate the word mastery, but ultimately it is, right? It's like learning how to be attuned and in right relationship with your own inner landscape and your nervous system and really kind of breaking free from, I would say, what's becoming way too popular and buzzy in the nervous system world around like nervous system regulation, which is like being in control and like fixing your nervous system. Like
Hmm.
we're getting away from that and really coming back to what nervous system healing looks like, right? And that is about being in relationship with your nervous system and being a radical witness and holding space and tending to what's happening, not trying to fix and control it. And then the
Hmm.
second piece is embodied business magic. And so, again, kind of circling back to what we've already talked about in this conversation, it's like, how do you hold yourself when you maybe share something that could be more polarizing online? And like, what energy is it that you're even posting that from? Is it to stir the pot and get engagement and be divisive for the sake of stirring the pot? Or is it because you're truly wanting to like embody and express what it's bleeding for? And right, those are very different energies. And then, of course, what happens when you do have internet trolls in the comments? And again, how you are tending to your own inner world in those moments. Are you
Hmm.
completely shrinking and over explaining and getting defensive? Or what are you doing? How are you containing and tending to that
Hmm.
experience? That was a very kind of specific example, but yeah, just naming those 2 parts.
Yeah, and I kind of said earlier, we're not teaching you the skills, but we are kind of, but not in the
Mm,
way that you would expect. We're not teaching you
mm,
like what to do with mothers. We're teaching you how to be with mothers. So it's like the art of holding space.
yeah,
What does that mean? What makes someone a good space holder? What is happening or needs to happen in your own nervous system, in your own being, so that with your own energy, so that you can hold space for someone else. And how do you do that without ego and without falling into this like savior
yeah.
mentality where you want to fix and save everything? And how do you create like a non-hierarchical, I can't say that word,
I think you just did.
relationship with
Yeah,
someone where you're not the one that's like, holding all the knowledge, holding all the power? How do we be power balanced when we're working with
yeah.
somebody? So it's, yeah, these internal skills. And my favorite part about this program is that, yeah, we're going to be offering like these little labs, embodiment labs, where
Yeah,
you
we're
get
gonna
to
call them
actually,
embodied skill labs.
yeah, embodied skill labs, where you get to actually practice this with another human being in these little dyad practices. Yeah, it's going to be a really beautiful container.
Yeah, I think even just to speak on the the conception of this, right? Like this came from both of our own like lived experiences, kind of navigating our own doula training and then recognizing, whoa, like what did we just walk into? Like what does it actually look like now to practice as a professional holding space for women and mothers? And what does that look like in the birth room and also in like a woman's home and also as you're like creating content and creating offers, right? It's all of it. And so like for me, like I'm seeing this as we're meeting the gap that your doula training program or wherever you trained and got certified in potentially left you hanging.
Yeah. Yeah. And the programs, whether you're a doula, coach, a matrescence educator, whatever it is, they're really good at teaching you like the science of
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're teaching. So the science of doula work, but it's like that art of doula work that's missing. And that's really hard to teach and really hard to learn on your own. It comes with time, it comes with experience. But I think that's mainly kind of what we're exploring here is blending the art and the science. So how do we touch on that artful piece?
Or like you said, like we're not necessarily teaching the skills, because I think we would both agree that you have the skills.
You have it all.
You have it all. As cliche as it sounds, like you have everything you need within you. You do. You just need the space to practice it and actually, again, excuse the word, master the embodiment, because that's how you grow your confidence. That's how you grow your advocacy skills. That's how you create those clear energetic boundaries so that you're not fucking drained after being in session with a client because you don't know where like you start and they end, right? Like it's that stuff. It's the below ground stuff that I also would argue you can't DIY. And I think a lot of us, I think we've both had this experience where we've kind of tried to DIY it. And
you can only go so far.
You can only go so far. Like I think, because this really is about, like we've said, it's the internal work. It's the inside out work. And healing truly does need to happen in community. So you can only go so far with the introspection and the doing things in your journal or whatever that looks like for you, right? There's something really magical and potent and transformative that happens when you are doing it in relation to someone else. And obviously, in relation to someone that isn't a client is even more potent because you can get real-time feedback and just that permission slip to be messy and to explore and be curious and allow yourself to be misunderstood and all of it, right? There's no perfection.
It's walking the talk, right? It's, we tell our clients, especially if you're a doula, like community is so important. And then we go and try to create these businesses in isolation. And like you're saying, like you can only go so far. So having community that can help you push yourself forward and create the business and the life that you're dreaming of. That's what true embodiment is. It's integrity. It's who are you behind closed doors. It's, I'm in like a doula Facebook group and someone posted something like, you can't be a doula and sharing all these things with your clients and then arguing with other doulas in this Facebook group, like something like that. I can't remember the exact words, but that's it right there. That's not an embodied person. That's not, letting your values and your true beliefs kind of infuse how you provide care. And I think when we take a trauma-informed lens in our work, you end up focusing more on the human in front of you instead of the dogma, instead of what you think is the right way or the wrong way. When I hear doulas who are so hell-bent on free birthing, that's all I can think of is that's great. Own your bias. That's awesome. That's what we're also going to get at too, is if that's what you really believe in and value, then go for it. Like that,
but own it.
It is, own it.
Don't tell the world that you are inclusive and I am totally stuck on my word right now. I'm trying to think of what the language is that a lot of doulas and like people in that space will say. Oh, like I support like whatever you believe, and like maybe you do, and also like you are allowed to lean into like your own biases, and like actually by doing that you get to be an even more potent space holder for that woman in front of you.
Like this stuff is gray. It's the gray area. And there's not many spaces to talk about this stuff and to figure it out in your mind and make sense of it. And do I own my biases, or do I want to be really inclusive and just serve every single person? And does that really make me trauma informed if I'm serving somebody that I actually don't know how to serve properly? And so those are kind of the conversations we want to have in community, in a place that, we're going to cultivate to hopefully be a safe space to do that.
Or I would even backspace that sentence. This is a brave space.
It's
a brave space. I think the other piece to this too, like on the other side, the business side of it, like I think the mother serving professionals, by the way, we're calling you all mother serving visionaries because you're not just any mother serving professional. You are really holding this vision of like mother-centered care and bringing language to all of the gaps that are currently in our culture, right? So there's this gap in business support for mother serving visionaries, where unfortunately we're kind of just being fed regurgitations of bro marketing and other toxic ways to grow and build your business that have been disguised basically in a pretty bow, or maybe disguised as like, this is like spiritual and like feminine embodied, but it's all coming from the same very toxic systems and structures that, again, as a mother serving visionary, you're trying to dismantle. So again, that embodiment piece also has to translate in your business and in your offer creation and the way you're pricing your work and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited just hearing us talk about it here.
Yeah, me too.
And obviously,
you go.
I was just going to say we haven't had a chance really to speak about it very, very much yet. So we're still, as you can probably tell, figuring out how to explain it because it is a bit abstract. It is a bit, there's just going to be a lot of really juicy conversations that you're probably not having elsewhere, but longing to have for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's also an aspect of co-creation, right? Obviously, like it's co-created by you and I, but it's also co-created with whoever is joining us, right? We are meeting you where you're at, and we are helping to just kind of expand and illuminate. And I'm using this language in a lot of areas of my work right now, but widen the permission field, because I think that is such a big thing. We are potentially not even noticing where there's like this inner oppressor, this inner colonizer within us that is saying like what we can and can't do. And so breaking free from those learned limitations. And I think this shows up not just like on the business side, but also like the inner mastery portion of, I don't know, even just like knowing or owning like your humanness, owning the fact that even though I'm dropping off this nourishing meal for you, I recognize that I haven't been tending to myself in the same way that I'm suggesting you do. And obviously there's an invitation for you to maybe meet yourself and bring more intention to the way you're nourishing yourself, but even just owning that, okay, there is actually this gap here, and I'm not going to pretend that that's not there because I'm a human, and I'm willing to allow you to see me in my messy, vulnerable humanness. And we're not seeing that very much modeled, if at all.
Yeah. And it's like a world-changing shift, right? Because, people are paying for a service. They have these patriarchal beliefs of what that should look like, what it means to be professional.
Yeah.
And even in my own work, I've found myself having these conversations with clients of like, I'm a mom too.
Yeah.
So there's going to be times where I might have a childcare issue, where I might have to move a visit. And can we both be okay with that? And I usually bring that up front before I'm even hired, and trying to lay out that, this is,
again, that's how
mother-centered business.
That's how we break down that power imbalance, right? We're literally reminding our clients that, I'm just a human too. We're literally at the same table. Yes, I have training and lived experience that is going to be able to position me as someone that can offer you wisdom. And yes, I am a professional space holder, right? So I am here providing you a service, and I am also a human, and I'm not willing to continue to extract myself just because that's the way business has always been done.
Yeah. It's being in relationship at the core.
Yeah. Okay, so we're running kind of like a secret early pre-sale. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I want to do this, message one of us, because we want to get you in, and we are offering spots at a very discounted rate right now. So I think we have it set to $1,800. The regular price is going to be $2,800. So $1,000 off if you want to join us. And like we said, this is a 6-month experience with very, very hands-on, intimate support by Lauren and I.
Yeah. And 6 months is just such a juicy amount of time. There's time for real depth and real exploration and real growth for all of us. So I'm excited about that length of time too. I've been in like 12-week containers.
I think we started it out as 12 weeks ago. This isn't it. this isn't it.
No.
This isn't right.
Because it's for you as well. Like, it's community for you to be in as well. And that's what we really wanted to focus on. Yeah.
Should we end it there? That sounds like a perfect.
Yeah.
I'm glad we talked about that. That's so good. Because we're about to go work on stuff around it. So now the energy is there. Okay, oh shit, did this record?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.